In the UK, the problem of nightmare neighbours has never been worse.
This man's going to kill me.
Oi, you were assaulting me!
My husband had blood all over his face, and I thought he was dead.
1 in 5 of us has been at war with next door.
The truth always comes out. Never forget that, scumbag.
Where flaring tempers can turn home life into a living hell.
I wouldn't spit on him if he was on fire.
Coming up, battling pensioners in the Scottish Highlands.
Nearly taking my head off and getting closer.
Murderous threats in Devon.
I'm gonna do you. You're dead.
And not everything in this garden is rosy.
And all of a sudden, he's at me like that.
When looking for an isolated, idyllic beauty spot, there couldn't be a better setting than rural Kinross near Fife, in Scotland. In 1986, retired hotelier Terence Doyle and his wife Jean found the perfect home overlooking the stunning Loch Leven.
I refer to it as the tropics of Kinneswood. We get nice scenery from here, and we're off the beaten track. I think in most of our lives we've lived in the country and enjoyed peace, quiet, tranquility and good views. And so we rather like it here.
14 years later, this wealthy pocket of the country attracted retired businessman David Poole and his wife, and they moved up from Berkshire to the bungalow next door.
My wife was adamant she did not want to look at pylons, and we happened to take one look at the view and decided, fantastic.
It didn't take long for the Doyles to extend the hand of friendship to their new neighbours.
We were the people that were doing the giving the approaches and inviting them for morning coffee and so on.
Yeah, when we first met Terry, perfectly friendly. We went to dinner with him and his family one evening. We had nothing in common.
Occasionally there would be a reciprocal to go to their place, but it was never like being at home.
For the next 10 years, the two families enjoyed a relatively harmonious relationship, until 2010, when the construction of a new driveway by David would change things forever.
Initially, the boundary between the two properties would have followed that yellow line straight up there.
When David's workmen started on the drive, Terence was soon on the scene.
And I said, gentlemen, sorry if I'm ruining your day, but I don't know who you are and you're on my land and I don't know what you're doing, but I don't want anything done.
I freely admit I'd forgotten this 3-metre pathway, half of which was mine, half of which was his. I'd totally forgotten about that bit.
But David had a solution, so work on the driveway could continue.
I said, well, look, the guys are here. I'm going to need the drive, whatever. If I've encroached on your land, yes, I still need the drive. And you can have a slice of land in compensation.
They informally agreed on a land swap, and Terence set his sights on a slither of land in a field that ran behind both properties.
I would never have settled a deal in a handshake, but in the absence of any other means there and then, that was it. And then he reneges on that within a day or two.
I got to think about it. I said, you are asking for too much, Terry. You know. We eventually got to the actual plans and discovered that, in fact, I had not encroached in any way. So I said, deal's off.
That was disappointing.
The new driveway wasn't only a constant reminder of his lost land, there was another problem. As Terence's garage was to be a casualty of David's new construction.
They then slope it this way to make sure that everything that lands there shoots off. You could guarantee every day that it rained, the garage flooded. It was obvious he was not going to do anything about the water.
It's the natural slope of the land. I've done nothing. I believe the agricultural ruling on water runoff or flash floods and that sort of thing is that you have to handle the water that comes onto your land.
We had lived there since '86 and the garage was always tinder dry, always.
One day, when Terence saw David trying to nail his back gate shut, he went over to confront him.
I said, what's going on here? You can't have access to the field, he said. I said, I don't need access to the field. This is our piece of land right here. And he's got this 3-pound mash hammer in his hand. And he swung the mash hammer at me like so. And I kind of dodged that. You've got this grimace, and the teeth and the eyes popping again, and shades of, try that again, you bandit, and I'll really get you, you know. And it came again at me. Come on, I'm saying. And again, the mash hammer came at me. This was vicious, like that. And I said, you must be out of your tiny head.
He stated that you swung the hammer in his direction.
No, not true.
Terence called the police, but they decided not to take any action. But the situation soon started to take its toll on his wife, Jean.
I don't even feel safe with the doors locked because you don't know what that man's going to do next. You know, I keep saying to Terry, if this doesn't stop, this is going to kill us. And I mean that.
Coming up. Threats and counter-threats in Devon.
And I said, if you do that, I'll kill you.
And shady goings-on in suburbia.
Just thought, what is this, gangster tactics? Is this gangster land now?
Nestling in the picturesque Devon countryside, the small village of Rowborough seemed like a dream setting for Tina and Steve Webb when they moved there in 1998 with their children Sarah, Charlene and Matthew.
It's beautiful because we've got obviously the moors further out, and that's why we wanted to move out this far. And we've got our local pub, which is very nice up there as well.
The neighbourhood in itself is absolutely great.
Yeah, it's like a proper old village, isn't it? Always saying hiya, and you have a little yap and that, and then toddle on to do your day's work.
Finding themselves in such a close-knit neighbourhood, Tina decided to set up her own child minding business.
The house that we're living in is ideal for it, as we've got a very large garden, climbing frames and things like that for them.
Tina went to great lengths to make sure their house was secure for the children.
We bought the CCTV 10 years ago for childminding. And if the children was playing and fought, you know, if they fell, they would be able to, we'd have evidence of what happened. But recently we've had to use them for my neighbour up the road, the Browns.
In March 2008, Richard Brown and his partner moved in, just a few doors up from the Webbs. Stephen and Tina initially had no contact with them, but it would only be 3 weeks before things started to go wrong.
One day Charlene come running in the door, petrified actually, she looked quite shook up, that the man up the road, she said, was shouting and swearing at her. Richard Brown was stood on the end of the drive, shouting that he's got nowhere to park, and when I actually looked up by his area, he had his parking space there.
The Webbs had grown accustomed to parking at least 5 of their vehicles in the spaces in front of their house.
Steve heard the shouting and he come running down and said, what's going on? And Mr. Brown started shouting that he's fed up with the parking around here and he's had enough. So Steve said, oh, you know, don't talk to my wife and child like that again, like, you know. And he said, oh, look, I'm so sorry, he said. Can we shake hands? I'm not in a happy mood. My son got injured in a boxing ring and it's quite upset me. He said, and I had no rights really to take it out on you, and can we shake hands and apologise? And so Steve said, well, yeah, but next time you can speak to us in an appropriate manner.
The Webbs hoped that was the end of the matter, but it was their son Matthew who was to bring relations between the families to the boil.
Matthew went to get some shopping. On the way back, as Matthew approached outside the house, Richard Brown called him up.
I heard a lot of shouting and screaming. I looked out the window to see if that Richard Brown had my son Matthew and was punching him around the head and around the face, really aggressive. Matthew was trying to hold his head down like that and push him away, and as Matthew was pushing away, Richard Brown was grabbing him more and punching him more to the face and head. He was punching him underneath, lifted his legs off the floor, really punching him. He was saying to Matthew, he said, I'm going to do you, I'm going to hammer you, and you're dead. And then I ran downstairs, ran out, and then as I ran out the front door, he threw him on the floor like a rag doll. I come out the house because I seen Matthew being beat up, and by the time I got to this point, Matthew was on the floor by then. We tried to push Richard Brown, but he just didn't want to let go. He just wanted to punch. And I said, what are you doing? What's it all about? And he said, I just hate the and that's exactly what he said.
Richard Brown claims the fight was self-defence, when Matthew attacked him and made threats towards his family. Richard was cautioned by the police. Tina Webb felt there could have been other reasons for the fight.
He was just going on about Matthew. Matthew fancies his girlfriend. I said, no, that's not right. We don't even know your girlfriend. I called Matthew down because he was upstairs. And I said, Matthew, do you fancy this man's girlfriend? He said, no, I've never seen her. He said, I don't know what you're on about.
On Boxing Day of that year, relations between the two families reached a new low, when the Webb family were walking home from a night at the pub.
As we walked past the post box, coming down towards Richard Brown's house, he said, I'm going to smash your cars up, burn your house. He said, you'll be in bed one night and you'll burn to death with your family. And threatened me with all that. And I said, if you do that, I'll kill you.
Richard Brown denies the abuse and claims he called the police after he heard the Webb family shouting threats and seeing Matthew with a baseball bat.
Matthew had a baseball bat and he said, he's not going to hurt me again.
Matthew feared for himself.
And he had the bat to protect himself. And Charlene, my youngest daughter, said, he's not going to hurt you, he's not going to hurt you. And she grabbed him because she was feeling for him. And she brought him in, and the basketball bat went back in the car, and the police seized it from the car.
Richard Brown claims Tina also forced her way into their home. Matthew and Steve Webb were arrested and cautioned, though neither were actually charged.
It was just the heat of the moment, wasn't it? That was it. No, there was no fighting or anything.
The things we've retaliated to is through things they've made us retaliate to defend ourselves.
But that retaliation was soon to get out of hand again. In a Scottish beauty spot, two pensioners had locked horns in an ongoing battle over a disputed driveway. The row now spread to where the fence line should be.
We'd written letters to him saying, we're going to have to go to arbitration, aren't we? And we are saying here and now, if you fail to do this, we will remove the fences that we think you're in the wrong position.
When he first started coming in the gate and telling us what to move, I was shocked that anyone could make these demands, that we had lived here all these years. Well, what can I say?
Gave him suitable time, and I started removing it.
And it didn't go unnoticed by his neighbour.
Mr. Doyle comes tearing up the drive at me.
And it was over here that he picked up a bracing bit. He was part bent and had a mean look, and he changed it from one hand to the other, and he was then trying to circle me. I could see that I was going to be getting the benefit of this just at any moment, and he would keep swapping and back again, and I reckoned it was actually coming for me. I was definitely going to catch it this time, when a neighbour stepped out and shouted, "Stop now." And he straightened up, and he stood there thinking his day had been ruined.
He says that you came at him with the bracing bit.
It was a terrible experience, and I was glad that my neighbour came to my rescue. I don't think I might have been here today. This was definitely going for me.
Following the incident, Terence Doyle called the police, and this time David received a caution. It didn't take long for the two men to collide once again, and this time Terence accused David of deliberately parking his car to block access to his driveway.
They had the Volvo parked right here, when I called him to say, David, you've got your car parked down there, so what? And just as blocking our way.
I have parked once out there to make a point.
Sole purpose was to obstruct our access and entrance.
Guess what? The police come around and say, Mr. Dawes says you can't get out. Well, excuse me, if he hadn't got such stupid gates, he could use the full width of the drive to get in and out.
The Rolls goes out fairly frequently. It would have been a tight job for it to try and get in there. We were having a very important guest and meeting with us here. I was going to collect them and they would be joining us here for morning coffee or a late morning coffee, and we're then going for lunch.
Oh, I've got Lord So-and-so coming. Please leave your car out of the way so he can get his Rolls-Royce in to join my Rolls-Royce.
Luckily for Terence, the weekly bin collection forced David to move his car, and Terence seized his moment.
It was my intentions to fetch my bicycle and to park it here and to say, sorry, this spot is taken. I then had to put a nail through its pedal so that it couldn't blow over, and so it stood there, and it stood there for at least a week.
With the bicycle nailed firmly to the pavement, it was impossible for David to return his car to the same spot. Although Terence won the parking battle, the war was far from over. Rita Grutendorst and her husband Peter live in the suburb of Sidcup in southeast London.
I've lived here 20 years now, and I am well known, especially to the council, because I'm a community campaigner and a community activist.
And Rita is proud to stand out from the crowd.
I do think I'm very, very different from the kind of people who live here. I'm not like the other people who live in this street. So you're coming up to my house, so this is it. I'm sorry it's a mess.
Rita's a keen gardener, and unlike other residents in the neighbourhood, she likes to pack her garden with a rich variety of plants and shrubs.
I am a free spirit because I do love nature, and I do believe that the world is there for us to cherish, not to destroy.
Rita had lived here for 14 years, when in 2008, Paula Lote and her partner Derek Wood moved in next door. And according to Rita, the first time they met, Paula Lote offered to buy Rita's house.
And I said, oh, that's great. You know, if you pay me what you've paid for next door, I'll start looking. But nothing came of it. She sort of stiffened up when I said, if you pay me what you paid for next door, and that was the end of that forever. And sadly, things only went from bad to worse.
Soon after, Rita received a letter saying Paula Lote and Derek Wood wanted to build a 2-storey extension on their home.
I opposed the plans because if I had allowed the plans to go ahead, they would have built a bigger than average extension.
Due to Rita's objections, Paula Lote didn't receive permission to build her extension for over a year. By then, Paula changed her plans, deciding to modify her garden instead.
You know, I saw the lorry loads of decking arrive, and then they put decking and fencing right up against my house.
And Rita claims the installation of decking ruined the peace in her garden.
The nail gun, for a week, that's all I heard. It was unbelievable. Chung, 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 chung. There's just tons of decking.
Once the decking was finished, Rita wasn't impressed.
I noticed that the gap and my border that used to be there between my lean-to and next door, that had gone when they put their decking and moved the fence over. So I lost part of my garden straight away.
Rita claims that her neighbours moved the boundary fence right up against her conservatory wall, stealing several inches of her garden. This is something Paula Lote strongly denies.
When I said to her on the Sunday, excuse me, I'd like you to remove this fence and decking off my land, and she went, good luck with that.
But Rita was determined to stand her ground.
Maybe little, but I'm not a pushover. This is just piracy. I tried everyone, including the council and councillors, to try and help, and nobody wanted to help.
Rita and Peter decided to try and prove that Paula had stolen part of the boundary, so they asked a surveyor to visit their home and conduct a laser land survey.
So I've got the survey here, and it shows that there's at least an 8-inch gap. So this survey proved that they encroached with their fence into my property, because they treat it as if it is nothing. But I find that it is just a land grab. So.
Paula Lote and Derek Wood deny ever moving the fence and insist it has been in the same position for at least 15 years, since before they moved in. But convinced a strip of their land had been stolen, Rita and Peter wrote a letter to Paula and Derek, outlining their grievances and including the results of their survey.
After I posted the letter, I just hoped that we could have a resolution and, put an end to all the nonsense that had gone on. A couple of days later, after I posted the letter, I went to my letterbox, and there was an envelope with my letter torn up inside. I just thought, what is this, gangster tactics? Is this gangster land now? It's intimidation. It's like a slap in the face.
Coming up, the police clamped down on Rita.
I've been sent to arrest you. Arrest me?
And Tina finds herself behind bars.
I was very scared. It's the first time that I was ever put in a cell that evening.
If your home life is sometimes a bit of a nightmare, our competition could really make a difference. We've got £10,000 to give away. Imagine what you could do with 10 grand. Maybe you could take the family away for a well-deserved holiday. Or perhaps it's time to spruce up your home and reclaim the garden from the wilderness. Whatever it is you need, Channel 5 wants to give you a helping hand. So for your chance to win, call 0904 161 9955 or text WIN to 85545 or post your name and phone number to WIN, PO Box 7557, Derby, DE1 0NP. Calls cost £1.53 from a BT landline. Calls from other landlines and mobiles may cost considerably more. Text costs £1.50 plus one message at standard network rate. Lines close at midday on the date shown on screen and 3 days later for postal entries. For rules, go to channel5.com/win.
Watering can at the ready.
In Sidcup, Rita grew endorsed to clash with her new neighbours, Paula Lote and Derek Wood, from the moment they arrived. And Rita claims they laid decking and moved the boundary fence 8 inches onto her land.
My garden's gone. The spirit of my garden has been taken away because I just feel they can do as they please. And they have done.
Paula Lote says that she once caught Rita trying to smash the boundary fence down with a hammer. Her partner Derek Wood made an audio recording of the argument that followed.
Rita, I've asked you to stop damaging my fence.
I've asked you to get it off my land.
Rita, it's been there
Stop
for 15
stealing
years.
my land. Stealing, cheating,
How
and
have I
lying.
damaged
You've
or
lied
moved
and
your
lied
fence?
and lied. Oi, get it off my land.
But it wasn't just the alleged land grab that disturbed Rita. After 3 years of conflict, one spring morning Rita heard Derek trimming the shrub that divides their front gardens.
So I go outside to tell him, stop that. Then saw my diverter pipe lying there on his ground.
Paula Lote claims Derek was merely repairing the downpipe, which is shared between the two properties.
He's going, I'm videoing this. And I said to him, why have you stolen my diverter pipe? Give that back. Give it back now. If you won't put it back and won't give it back, I'm going to get it.
2 doors down, neighbour Jerry Wooder was working in his back garden when he heard shouting.
Most of it was coming from Rita, yelling at Derek. It's not the first time I've known her to sort of moan about these things.
Went to take my diverter pipe, and all of a sudden, before I can even reach the pipe, he's at me like that, at me like that, and I'm flat on my back. And he's on top of me, and I can't get up. I'm trying to pull myself up. I can't get up.
I saw that they were struggling, and he pushed her on the ground. She tried to get up, was pushing quite hard and fiercely on to keep her down, and she hit her head a couple of times. So I jumped over and pulled him off.
He just ripped this chap off me, who was on top of me, and got me away.
And that was it. It obviously quietened down. And I came back out here again when I saw Derek, and we were here, just here, when he said the ladies just attacked me. And he had this cut on his face.
Their video of the alleged fight no longer exists, but Paula Lote and Derek Wood insist that it was Rita who had attacked Derek. And shortly after the clash, Rita got a knock at the door.
And I went downstairs, and there was a young policewoman and a man standing there. And I said, "Oh, thank God you've come. I thought you were never going to come and do the investigation." She said to me, "Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't come to investigate. I've been sent to arrest you." And I went, "Having a laugh. Arrest me?"
Paula Lote claims police told her Rita behaved like a wild animal when she was arrested. After 12 hours at the police station, Rita was charged with assault and criminal damage and released on bail. She was due in court the following month, but the charges against her were dropped because of a lack of evidence.
It's a malicious prosecution. If there's no evidence and you haven't done anything, it's a wrongful arrest and a malicious prosecution.
But Paula Lote maintains that Derek suffered cuts during the attack. Their neighbour Jerry Wooder has his own views on the situation.
Well, I think the run-ins that people have had, they've actually learned that it's not worth really chasing these things or making too much of an issue. Just walk away from it. Here's a lady who could create hell for you if you're not too careful.
For Rita, it's her garden that has suffered the most.
I used to have a working, flourishing garden, but I don't use this garden. I can't use the garden as I used to use it before these people arrived and started all the tricks. My garden now has not seen me for 2 years. I just have lost heart.
So in a final attempt at peace, Rita proposed that Paula and Derek pay her £5,000 to compensate for the loss of the land.
This is not a perfect solution. It would not make up for what I've gone through, but £5,000 would at least pay for my laser land survey and all the hassle. It would go a little tiny way to pay for what she's done. I'd like her to be reasonable. I'd like her to be a good neighbour, if that's possible.
Rita and Peter are currently awaiting a response from Paula Lote. But it seems unlikely that Rita and her surrounding neighbours will ever see eye to eye.
Well, she's certainly eccentric, there's no doubt about that. If she quietly just got on with things, then things would be very peaceful. Because I think this is a quiet street, it's neighbourly. I wouldn't actually put her into how you would describe neighbourly.
I couldn't care less about these neighbours. They're not my sort. They're not my type. Unfortunately, I've never had good neighbours in this road. It's full of zombies. It's full of inbred village idiots.
In Kinross, the last 4 years has seen Terence Doyle and David Poole embroiled in a row over a slither of land that ran behind both properties. Once promised to Terence in exchange for part of his driveway, David and his wife had then withdrawn the offer, but Terence still believed it was his.
I would say it has hijacked our lives because Terry can think of nothing else. I'd just like it to end. I really would like it to end. I'd really like him to move away and go wherever he can and give the rest of the people, the neighbours here, peace.
But peace wasn't on the cards. When Terence decided to do some improvements to his house and left an old fireplace on the disputed land, things were about to get violent.
We heard that box go whomp.
Whilst Terence believed the old fireplace was on his property, David believed it was on his, and tempers quickly flared.
He then said, "Did you push the far box over. I said, yes. Why did you do that? I said, it displeased me.
And he looked over his shoulder and came there in one move right around, teeth glaring, and got me with his vicious left hook.
Next I knew, I had a thwack in the back. Probably a kick.
There was only one hit, just one hit in the whole session, where he actually got me in the side of the head. Suddenly I'm caught from behind by his glove fist under my throat. He puts his leg behind me to unbalance me, and he whumps me onto the ground with all his force. And it's not as though I fell onto a feather mattress. I've fallen onto all these branches and bits of wood and such, and they're not very comfortable.
I defend myself as best I can. I end up on the ground. He ends up here. His glasses like this. Sorry, like that. Looking a bit stunned.
Once again, the police were called, and Terence was taken to hospital for his injuries.
Where's this cracked skull and displaced jaw? I don't know what else, you know. Burst his eyelids or something, did I? Burst his eardrums.
It's not that he would go up there and want to fight with someone. He's never fought with anyone, but he has.
Lies, lies, lies.
The police charged David with assault, but when the case went to court, he was found not guilty. Though according to the sheriff, neither man was acting in a manner fitting to his age.
I worry for Terry, for his sanity, frankly, with this man, to be told that he hit him first. And I keep saying to Terry, give him what he wants and let's get on with our lives. What do we need it for?
But the men felt differently, and to avoid any further unwelcome encounters, David took advantage of a Scottish law which stops people from trespassing on your land.
I bought the caravan because you cannot legally enter someone else's property if there's a caravan on that enclosure.
The caravan remained on the field, but not for long.
One night in January, and it was pouring with rain, I'm told, and it ended up a pile of junk.
Who will be the number one suspect now? You know, what next? Am I to be blamed for sort of thing?
Neither the police nor the fire brigade were able to prove if the blaze was accident or arson.
What do you think happened?
I think somebody set light to it.
I can assure you I had nothing to do with the burning down of that caravan, nothing whatsoever.
To this day, it remains a mystery, but the fiery feud between the two men was far from over. The rural calm of Roborough in Devon was shattered when Steve and Tina Webb came into conflict with their new neighbour, Richard Brown. A destructive chain of events had already been set in motion. The Browns complained to the police about Tina's son Matthew's treatment of their teenage son. At the same time, Tina received reports from Ofsted about anonymous complaints regarding her childminding business.
There are ongoing issues regarding this family with the police. Their language is disgraceful in the presence of the minded children. Frequently displayed aggravation and threatening behaviour towards their neighbour. I do think he is attacking us through Ofsted's, and anybody knows Ofsted's is the people you've got to answer to.
Then the police paid Tina a visit.
They wanted us to take our CCTV cameras down because it was not right for the Browns. They felt intimidated in their privacy, and they said it's not right that you've got the camera going up towards their property.
Tina moved her cameras, but soon both families were lodging complaints about the other to the police. Tina claimed Richard was harassing her at her door, and his partner had damaged her car. Richard says Tina was constantly harassing his family, and he had evidence. Both families deny the other's claims. Finally, Tina was issued with a police information notice in relation to allegations of harassment, warning her to have no direct or indirect contact with the Browns. But then in February, she discovered a Facebook post by Richard's partner.
2 complaints and 1 enforcement action letter. Tut tut, they must have plenty of haters. Ha ha. So then she's put, this has made my day. Whoop whoop whoop, yippee.
Tina couldn't help herself and took to Facebook to post a very public response. Ignoring her police information notice, she wrote on Richard's partner's Facebook wall and messaged her online friends.
I did say that they are a nasty family because of what we've had to go through. I couldn't believe what happened next.
Within a few hours, there was a knock at the door.
There was 2 police officers asking for Tina Webb, and they just come right through to the kitchen at me, and I said, what do you want me for? What have I done? And they said, we've come to arrest you. I was very scared. It's the first time that I was ever put in a cell that evening, and I was sat there for 5 hours wondering what I've done.
Tina was not charged for the online posts, but instead, the courts upheld the Browns' complaints that she had actually verbally abused them on several occasions. Tina was convicted for harassment and was issued with a restraining order.
I was given a 2-year suspended sentence to stay away from Richard and his family. If not, I would get anything up to 5 years imprisonment. And I was given 50 hours community service. I had the tag around my ankle, which was on here, for 2 months. 7 o'clock in the evening, I had to be in, and I wasn't allowed out until 7 o'clock in the morning. So I was just like a prisoner in my own home, really. Couldn't even go to an Halloween party with my grandson.
Coming up, there's no end in sight for the Battle of the Borders.
He's Lord Doyle, who can bully anybody. Not me, mate.
Don't forget about your chance to boost your bank account by a massive £10,000. You could take a family holiday or spruce up your home. It's completely up to you. To enter, call 0904 161 9955 or text WIN to 85545 or post your name and phone number to WIN, PO Box 7557, Derby DE1 0NP. For rules, go to channel5.com/win. In Kinross, the Doyles and the Pauls have been locked in a bitter land dispute for the last 4 years that's put one in hospital and the other in court. To stake his claim to the disputed driveway once and for all, Terence had a trick up his sleeve.
We've simply marked the boundary and reminded a certain party as to whose boundary it is and where it is.
I was away and was informed that the spike had appeared. So I said, well, okay, we'll sort it out when we get home.
He's tried every trick. You've seen him with his little bottle jack trying to jack it out, and he had an engineer in to cut it out, and the engineer was stood right there, and I said, I'll just wait until you actually damage the galvanised metal on it, and then I'll go call the police. The guy unplugged his little Black & Decker and went.
He's Lord Doyle, who can bully anybody. Not me, mate.
It stops him from driving up here and parking here. It stops him from driving. He sometimes has 4 or 5 cars parked in the field where they're all looking on at us. Not that we pay any attention. I don't know where he gets them from or how he gets people to come and stay with him, but he's a very unsociable guy.
David was now hoping a civil court case would be the solution.
Look, I'm putting it in the hands of a specialist and a court, because all this argy-bargy is getting absolutely nowhere. Where should the boundaries be? Nobody can tell me.
But finding these answers wasn't cheap.
We're very close to £50,000 cash that we have given to this to keep this man from coming in here and taking our land that we have occupied since we bought this home and had no reason to doubt it at any time because the fences were all here when we came.
The final court hearing has not taken place, and the bitter feud continues to this day.
We bought and paid for this. If I got careless and let it all slip, I mean, I have a son and we have nephews and nieces. Are they more entitled to it than Poole is? I would think so.
The intrinsic land value is nil. I'm fighting it. Because it's not right.
I'd just like it to end. I really would like it to end. I'd really like him to move away and go wherever he can and give the rest of the people, the neighbours here, peace.
In Devon, what started as a neighbourhood dispute and bad feeling between two young men resulted in childminder Tina Webb receiving a restraining order for harassment. But Tina was soon struggling to meet the conditions of that order.
One day I was driving in the village and the children start waving and I started beeping and waving back and laughing. And the next thing I get told that I broke my breach of harassment because I was doing this. Richard Brown phoned up and said that he felt intimidated because I was beeping and laughing in my vehicle whilst passing his house.
In April 2013, she was summoned on 4 counts of breaching her restraining order.
If I do anything to Mr. Brown again, I've only got to shout to Steve at the front, and if he thinks it's for him,
and he feels threatened
by it, then I'll be took to court and put to prison for up to 5 years.
In October 2013, a judge at Plymouth Crown Court disposed of the case, and Tina was bound over to keep the peace. The bad feeling between the Webbs and Richard Brown continued to simmer, and 9 months later, Steve received an alarming voicemail.
It's on my phone here.
Hello there, Mr. Webb. This is Mr. Brown. I'd just like to ask you a question as to why you're videoing my 11-year-old daughter on the way to school this morning. As you can imagine, she was very upset by this, and I'd like to know why exactly you're doing that. Thank you very much.
That evening, I was in my van, and Richard Brown come up to me and put his hands up against the door, which made me very uncomfortable and very nervous. I said, I've not done nothing, I don't want to talk to you, go away from me. He said, I want you to come out here because I'm going to kick your head in. And I said, just go away. He said, no, come out here. He said, because I'm going to do you right now.
The Webbs reported the incident to the police, and Richard Brown, who denies the harassment in the van, was issued with his own police information notice.
I'm glad it's being done, but it should have come a lot sooner.
With both families receiving police notices, things quietened down on the street. The police offered the families mediation, but the Webbs walked out. Richard Brown told us he has always been willing to solve the dispute amicably, even though they have been seriously affected by the harassment, and the Webbs have caused his family immense stress. Following the 6-year dispute, the Webb family's lives have also changed forever.
We shut the business down basically because of all the aggravation we've had. There's only so much you can take before breaking point, to be honest.
Next time, neighbours clash on a Glasgow estate.
He started running down that garden path, frothing at the mouth.
A garden wall in Wiltshire gets the makeover from hell.
It stands out like an eyesore. It's almost like seeing the Great Wall of China from the moon.
And a conservatory starts a boundary war in Bedfordshire.
I wouldn't spit on him if he was on fire. There isn't a swear word strong enough.
That's pretty strong. Tomorrow night on Channel 5, the effect of payment caps and the bedroom tax in Benefits, Babies and Jail at 8 o'clock. But next tonight, a nightmare for any business facing the repossession guys. New Can't Pay Will Take It Away follows the news headlines in just a moment.